Take one.
Did we get a take two? No, sorry. So tell me, Ewan.
Yes, Nicole.
Good to see you after all these years.
I know, you too.
Yeah, when they asked me to do this, I was actually very excited because we've never sat down like this in, how long is it since we made Moulin Rouge?
17 years, or 18 years, depending. We started it in '99 and we finished it in 2000.
Okay, shh, that's enough. I shouldn't have asked that question. Why did you decide to do Fargo? And the role?
Yeah.
Well, the two roles.
The two roles, yeah. Well, it came about like this. I was approached with another television idea with a friend of mine who I'd worked with as a director. And it was a new idea, but it was a more traditional, like you would have to sign up for a 5-year contract or something.
Right.
And, but it fascinated me. I loved the story and I liked the character. And so I was mulling it over and I was thinking about being a film actor and doing a television series. And I think 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, I made a pilot for HBO for The Corrections, Jonathan Franzen's novel, which they decided not to make.
Right.
And at that time, I found it very difficult because I felt like it felt like a bit of a failure. I thought it looked like my career's not going very well, so I've decided to do telly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this time, maybe I got over that hump then, and. I was skiing and with some friends of mine who introduced me at lunchtime to this producer from FX. And I was talking to him about this television idea that I liked. And he went, well, have you seen Fargo? And I said, no. I didn't think Fargo was a very good idea. I thought the idea of making a TV show based on a movie that we know and love was just silly, really. I didn't understand it. So I'd never watched them. And he said, no, you should see it. Have a look at it.
Yeah.
Because we're casting the 3rd season and we need an actor to play 2 brothers who aren't twins. And then I went home and I watched them and I watched them out of order by accident. I watched season 2 first, but I was incredibly impressed with it. I think it's brilliant writing is what it is. And it felt to me like a movie, but over 10 hours, which I liked. And then I asked to meet Noah and I read the first draft, the first script for Fargo, and I was just blown away by it. I just think it's brilliant, brilliant writing. And there's something about that Fargo tone which is really appealing.
It is, it's such an interesting tone and it's riveting.
I don't know how he did it. I don't know how do you capture the sense of something without the same characters, without the same storyline? I mean, it's set in the same place. You've got that funny Minnesotan accent, which is incredibly difficult to do. And, but I think there's something about the humour that comes out of the darkness, which is quite Fargo-esque.
Yes.
I think maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Dark humour.
Yeah.
Black comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we didn't. I mean, Keith and I watched.
Right.
Watched the first because you're still shooting it, so we haven't seen all of it.
No.
And we did not recognise you as the other brother, well, anyway, I won't spoil it for people. We literally didn't recognise you because I didn't realise you were playing 2 roles. So it was a perfect way to start watching it.
Yeah.
Is just watching it and seeing you and then going, oh, who's that? And then it kind of hit us. And I mean, that must be a huge coup for you and a compliment in terms of not being recognised.
It was the exciting challenge of it for sure. It was to try and create 2 people who are related but aren't, but are very different people, and to see if I could do it, if I could pull it off, And
well, you definitely pulled it off.
Well, I have a lot of help from my friends for sure because I've got this extraordinary makeup for Ray, who's got a receding hairline, and I wear 3 prosthetics. I've got a kind of heavy neck and they get rid of my cleft chin and I've got a wider nose.
Yeah, the receding hair I think really does it.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yes.
I think Ray is so cool. Like, Ray is a very interesting storyline, and but what the lovely thing about Ray is that he's sort of love, he's in love with Nicky Swango. He's totally in love, and that's what's really wonderful about playing him, is he's quite a downtrodden, hard-nosed guy. He looks after criminals. He's a parole officer, and he's a dick to them. I like that about him. He's a real dick to the people he works with. And then when he's with Nicky, he's completely like, Can't believe his luck, you know.
He's like a puppy.
So I like that. So I love that about him, and as opposed to the other brother, who's much more in this sort of Trump era, is much more represents capitalism, and he's a businessman, and his focus of his life has just been about success and money, and he's got no soul really, in a way. And although he's married and he loves his wife in a sort of organized way, you know, I've got my business, I've got my wife and my daughter, and everything should be in its place. But he's got no soul, really, and Ray's got soul, and so that's sort of, I think, is what differentiates the two of them in a way. And yeah, it was fun. It's been really fun to do. I love it.
An older boy taking advantage of a younger, playing on
Nobody took advantage. It was a trade. If I had a time machine, you'd see I'd play back the tape. Emmett, come on, I'm begging you. Take the stupid stamps already. Give me the car.
No, that's not... That was you tricking me.
And do you see it as very different, like doing film and television?
No, I think it's the same. I just think it's more satisfying doing television now because I've been doing films for 25 years or something, and I find that the waiting to work is just intolerable nowadays. And in television, you don't wait very much because you have to do so much in a day.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the pace of it very much. What do you think about it?
I don't find it different.
No.
I mean, I actually see it as almost exact. I do not see anything different when I'm working on Big Little Lies versus working on Lion or Sacred Deer or some sort of film I've done recently. It's the same.
Yeah. How did you
obviously
get involved?
Different directors, but there seems to be... The thing I love about television is that you are in people's lives regularly, and the connection that way is intense and sort of and very... It makes me feel very much a part of the world.
Yeah.
Far more connected to the world.
Yeah.
Than in a film.
Yeah.
So...
How did you get involved in Big Little Lies? How did that come about?
It's so funny having you ask me questions.
I know. Well, it's quite funny having you ask me questions. You were very good at it, though, I have to say.
I'm very interested. I'm curious. How did I get involved? Well,
yeah, because you also produce it, right? You produce it as well.
Yeah, with Reese and Bruna Papandreou. Do you know Bruna?
No.
You probably and Per Sari, who's my producing partner, and the four of us kind of jumped on this book that was written by an Australian author, Leanne Moriarty, and Bruna called me and said, Reese has read this, we've read this, we think this would be a great thing to do together. I read it overnight and I happened to be flying to Australia, so I met with Leanne. I sat down, had a coffee with Leanne at Fratelli in Sydney, which is a really great coffee, I have to say.
Yeah.
That always helps to seal the deal. And and I said, would you give us the rights? Because the one thing I'll promise you is that we'll get it made. And she did.
Is the book set in Australia?
No, it was written. The book was set in Australia, and the series was moved to Monterey.
Yeah.
Because for a number of reasons, partly was HBO wanted to do it. They wanted it to be sort of based in America because they thought then that would probably have a more global appeal. I think it could have been based in both places, but you know, to get the cast that we got.
You've got the most extraordinary
It was
cast.
easier to shoot in, we have like between Laura Dern and Shailene Woodley and Zoe Kravitz, Reese, and then all the men as well. Alexander, all of them. I mean, we were so lucky.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, that's
and
a
that
marker.
we wouldn't have got that in terms of Australia because everyone would have, and it would have probably cost us a lot more money too.
Right. It's sort of a marker as well of how things have changed in film and television, in that it really doesn't, the delineation's gone in a way. You'd never have got that cast in a TV show 10 years ago, I don't think.
No.
So,
I'm not sure when it turned. I think it was probably when Matthew and Woody did True Detective, right? And everyone went, oh. We both said that.
I know. That's right. That's right.
But it's also awesome that now there's, I suppose there's just more opportunities.
Yeah.
Because there's so much talent out there.
Yeah.
And like there just wasn't, I mean, a decade ago there really wasn't enough work, right?
Yeah.
Because it was very much film and then you would go to television as sort of another resort. But now it's all mixed in together and you have just exquisite performances and storytelling in many different mediums. I love that.
Yes, I like it too. There's so many platforms for it to be seen now.
And because I have so many talented friends that now go, oh wow, there's hope. I can get this. I can do that. I can produce this myself. I have this. I mean, so much of it is just giving talented people a chance.
Yeah.
So, I'm a massive supporter of that.
Yeah. And is it a one-season deal, your show, or is it going to go on?
It was a book, so it was pretty finite.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, we got the taste for it, so we're like, oh, what a pity. But, you know, you never know. You always hope. But there's no story. There's absolutely no
You'll find another
prospects right now.
Right.
I think I feel ashamed. Shame. And we have this dirty secret. Tell me, Ewan.
What memories do I have? Some of them are a little blurry, I can assure you.
Yes.
Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
But hey,
What
did
an
you
amazing-
realize what we were making when we were making it?
I did. I think I did, yeah. I've always been... I don't think you do work unless you think it's going to be great, you know. I've never approached anything thinking, well, this might be a bit crap, but... So I...
After a week, though, you've gone...
Sometimes you get...
Ooh,
oh, shit. But I know, I think because Baz had just done Romeo and Juliet, hadn't he? Was that the film he made before ours? And, you know, just the way we put it together, you know, I remember we went out and we did a 2-week workshop.
Right, what about
like 6 months before we started shooting.
I remember being in a dance studio with you and having to do all those different dances, like salsa and tango.
Yeah. And they're not...
We didn't end up doing any of them, did we?
hardly any dancing at all.
No,
I know.
but we were in that workshop dancing for
Mr.
weeks
Cha-Cha.
on end.
Mr. Cha-Cha.
Yeah. And I mean, the discipline of that. And then the
Yes.
singing. I just remember you having this exquisite voice and me going, I am never going to be able to hit these notes.
No,
and I was
that's
sort
not
of
true. It
being,
was great.
get in the room, practice,
Yeah.
Nicole, come on. And you would sort of come in and...
No, that's not
Yes,
true.
it's true.
No, we were all in the same boat
You were
there.
so much better than me. It's
That's
so
not
true.
true.
And I was like...
But it was that house, what was it called? His villa. Baz had that house that we did all the work in.
Yeah.
And we would do acting rehearsals in one room. Marius de Vries had his studio in another room. Wardrobe was upstairs. It was like being in a...
And gorgeous food.
And good food, yeah.
We'd have great food.
That's
very
true.
important. And then we'd have great parties.
Yeah.
Remember those Friday nights or Saturday nights?
Not all of them.
No.
Don't remember all of them.
But yeah, exactly.
But no, it was...
Anyway, we had some pretty wild nights. I
Yeah.
remember absinthe being passed out
That's
at one
right.
point and me going, is this safe?
Yeah.
I was so sort of
Well,
naive.
and
and
it
then
was-
going, I
Oh, here we
suppose
go.
it is.
It's okay now. No, it was an amazing
Dancing on the
experience. And then workshopping it. I mean, then we did that 2-week block, and then we all went away, and then we came back, and then we worked for it felt like 3 months before we shot. Was it that long? It wasn't
pretty
that long.
much. We were literally, I mean, we gave about a year of our life to that film, didn't we?
That's right.
But hey, I'm so glad.
Yeah, me too. I remember shooting the elephant scenes because it was so funny and silly and you know, all that stuff, the poetry. You were wrapped up in the blanket. Yes, yes. It was so funny
That's
and
right,
silly.
and that just came out of sort of, it wasn't really in the script.
It wasn't really in the
that.
script, that. But then
he
everything was a bit
developed
like
it.
that, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Like all those workshops we did, we'd work on a scene, and then a week later we'd come back, and the work that we'd done on it as actors would have been incorporated in the writing. That never happens. That's very rare. I thought that was astonishing.
It's just gorgeous, yeah. And it's such a great thing to share. I always say this, it's when you get to share something like that together, it's yours forever. It's
that's right.
something we all created together, and it bonds you in a very particular way, doesn't it?
No, very true. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
How about you just give me back my stamp and we'll call it square? Ray, look, you're lucky I don't sue. I mean, a legal document which delineates things, bequeaths them to specific parties, a father dead on a driveway.
What would be the most challenging? I know that's just a ridiculous question.
It's a funny question because I think what people imagine are the challenging moments often aren't, like if you have to cry or you've got a breakdown, or those sort of take care of themselves in a way, I find. And I don't know, I think the most challenging thing about acting is if you've lost your faith in it. You know, when we discussed a little earlier about maybe you start a film and you think it's going to be great, and then 2 or 3 weeks in you realise that you either you're not on the same page as the director, or you don't feel that you've got the director's trust, or they're not really seeing what you're doing, or
yeah,
that's the hardest thing of all, I think, because then you've got to somehow protect your own work, and you've got to try and keep your enthusiasm going to get to work in the morning, when in actual fact maybe you've lost faith in it. I think that those are the hardest moments when you're not happy. I like to work being happy and just loving what I do. It's sort of because I'm in a fortunate position to be able to do that. I do a job that I can really enjoy, you know.
Yeah.
So if that's not the case, I think those are the most challenging moments. And it would be impolite of me to say what those films have been.
Yes, you never, right?
Yeah.
But
what about you? Is there something, I don't know, I can't think of a scene particularly that I've done that was difficult.
I mean, I think it's just having the, I really want to stay in a place of putting myself into discomfort, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Not feeling like, oh, I've done this, I'm very safe, I know how to do this. That for me is not what I'm looking for. So it's staying, I suppose, really, really, really brazen in the sense of going, I'm going to jump in like I would do when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, abandon everything and give it my all and hope for the best.
Yeah. You've always done that. You've always done that.
It gets harder as you get older because you know now when things don't work out. But I go, so what?
Right.
What have you got to lose? And you may have a lot to lose, but be willing to lose it, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah.
And that really is staying in that place and being willing then to take the pitfalls when they happen, because that's going to happen. And if you approach it like a high wire act.
Yeah. No, it's true.
But I'm interested in auteurs. I'm interested always in filmmakers.
Yeah, finding the right filmmakers to work with.
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest thing is having them be interested in working with you, because, I mean, so much of being an actor is being on the receiving end of what you get considered for.
Yeah.
And trying to break through those walls and those boundaries that are put upon you because they go, oh, well, she can only do that, or that's what she is, or she's this, or she's that, and always trying to break through that and say, give me a chance.
I think you've totally managed to do that. No. You have. I mean, you have. Because it's true. I think the business has got a very small imagination, isn't it? It totally puts people in boxes. And
and diversity is, and being able to say, I want to play all different cultures, people, ideas, and but I need a visionary. I need somebody who's going to lead it, because as an actor, but you see, you've directed. I've never directed.
Yeah. I put like 18 months of my life, or but solid 18 months of my life into making a film that I think is a very good film and very proud of.
Oh yeah,
but that
American Pastoral.
About 18 people went to see in the cinema. And that's something that changed me in a way. It really did. You have a sort of connection with the work. I've always felt connected to my work and an ownership of it as an actor. But if a film's not done very well in this box office or whatever, I just go, okay, well, I got something out of it and the experience was rich for me and it didn't really matter. But in this case, because it was a film that I'd made, I found that was very hard to deal with, the fact that people didn't go and see it, you know, a lot in the cinema.
But that can be for so many reasons, because, you know, as we all know now, it's so much about the corporate sort of, and the ability to promote things and get it out there and all.
Timing and everything. But it's also something to do with the kind of film it is, I think. I mean, I've thought about it a lot, obviously, and I think it's the sort of movie that people go to see in the cinema less. And people are going to see event movies and horror films and films that, I think because now we've got such access to movies in our living rooms, in our homes, or wherever we are, on our phones with our children's generation. You know, we put all this time and effort into making these beautiful movies that kids are just going to watch on their fucking iPhone. Yeah. You know, and
but hey, they're watching them.
But at least they're watching them, and that's the thing. And so maybe that changed my thinking a little bit about it as well. About that it doesn't, that maybe having it seen in a cinema with lots of people isn't the be all and end all anymore. I don't know. I'll always love the cinema, and I love going to see movies in the cinema.
But that, as you say, I mean, certain films are going to be seen in the cinema. We're going to shoot certain films still on film, which is, I've just done 2 films on film.
On film, lovely. Yeah.
But also, ultimately, for the stories to reach people and somehow connect, how they reach them, does it really matter?
Yeah.
And we're lucky now because we've got things like Amazon where they're able to do theatrical releases and release on TV. I mean, is it ideal? We're not living in an ideal world. So no, but is it a fantastic opportunity? Yeah. So I suppose I'm always still the glass half full girl.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, that's good. Because I always want to do that kind of work. I don't want to do work that what fires me is the kind of work that we do. It's about people and exploring human nature and how we deal with situations. And it doesn't matter to me if I can, like, shoot fire out of my eyes or fly through the air. It matters how do I deal with the situation in a human way, you know. So if that kind of work is going into the television realm, I'll go with it. You know what I mean? I don't mind at all.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just know when Reese and I were talking about doing this, and we were like, we really feel that there is a place in the world for these stories about women. And I mean, I think there was doubt from people because it was like, I think it's going to be pretty niche. And for it to then spread further than being niche is really gratifying because you go, no, we weren't crazy. We were right.
It's funny that people imagine something about women as niche.
I know.
Isn't that fucking ridiculous?
It's still always the way.
Yeah.
Huh?
Crazy.
But I think also in terms of art films or television that is very, very artistic and creative, there will still be a path for that. I'll always be an advocate for those because the last thing we need is this world being homogenized and our storytelling being homogenized. So you have to stand up, fight, be willing to take the falls every now and then because sometimes it's maybe won't be commercially viable, but sometimes it will. Sometimes it'll hit such a raw nerve. I mean, you look at something even like, and I know this is TV, but you look at Manchester by the Sea, such an exquisite piece of filmmaking, very dark and very upsetting, but still reached a massive audience. Even something like Lion, which is, you know, would normally not reach that many people, but it kind of just hit a place. And that's what happens with TV now. I mean, that's why when you said about Fargo, well, how do you do that? Make a film into a TV series that suddenly is going to penetrate. And I mean, it's miraculous that it happens. But I do think that audiences sniff out the things they're interested in. There is now, we're so lucky that there's a way that you can penetrate that is just kind of grassroots. Shut up, Nicole.
No, that's brilliant. No, that's great. That's brilliant. No, it's true. It's true. It's totally true.
And now, what do you think?
I think more or less just what you said. Yeah, that's good. No, I think you're right.
Everybody just wants a chance. And we're all still in the place of being, I suppose, you know, we love what we do. We're passionate about what we do. And for it to be discovered in whatever way, shape or form gives us the chance to keep doing what we'd love to do. Pretty blessed.
For 6 years, I've been wiping runny noses, organizing play dates, doing everything to be a good mom, you know? And today I felt alive. I felt good. Is that crazy?
What's the best or worst advice you ever got as an actor?
I don't really remember getting in. I think the interesting thing about acting is that I've thought about when you're working with a child or you know, you can be working with a 5-year-old or something in a scene, and your responsibilities are exactly the same. You know what I mean? In terms of what we're doing. So that 5-year-old, I did that film with Naomi called The Impossible. And I had this little boy. I've had 3 boys in that film, and I had this little boy who must have been, I think he must have been like 5 or 6. And there was a scene where I have him in my arms, and I walk up and I ask this man if I can use a cell phone, and he says no. And I stumble off because we can't find their mum.
I start crying even talking about this.
It's a very moving film, So when we did the first take, and now this little boy, when they shouted action, he was just he was totally in the moment. Like, he was totally a proper actor, but he was 5, and I don't know what his understanding of acting was or what he might have thought he was doing, but he was doing amazing work. And when the guy said no, he wouldn't give me his phone, he went, "Give him the phone, you bastard!" Like that. He just improvised in the moment. And I thought, God, this wee boy's totally is doing exactly what I'm doing. Our responsibility is the same. So I think with actors, it's an odd thing. You don't give advice to each other. I've never done it. I mean, unless I see somebody's concerned about something or technical or something. If somebody's on their first day on set and they don't understand something, I'll always be mindful of that and help people out, because someone did that with me. I remember the first thing I ever did out of drama school was this TV series called Lipstick on Your Collar in Britain. And on day 2, I played this sort of musical fantasist. It was set in the 50s, in the War Office room during the Suez Crisis. And I was playing a Russian translator, and I'm sitting there, and there's a camera on a crane like this far from my nose. And I had to be sitting there, and I had to look at the clock, look back, look around the room at everybody, and then look down, and then they would play back Blueberry Hill, and I had to look up into the lens and lip sync exactly to Blueberry Hill. And as I started singing this, I found my thrill, the camera swept up into the corner of the room to look at the whole room. And it was my second day on set ever. And so I did it, and I did it again, I did it again, I did it again. They kept asking for more and more and more takes. And by about take 12, this man, Doogie Henshaw, who was another actor sitting over to my right, who became my best man at my wedding and a very dear friend of mine, he walked over to me and he went, he's Scottish, "It's not you." And I said, "What?" He said, "It's not you. They're not doing all these takes because of you, okay?" And I went, he said, "It's the crane. They're not getting the crane in the right place. It's not you." And I went, oh my God. Because I, of course, sitting there thinking, I'm fucking this up. I'm messing this up.
And he knew that.
And he saw it. So I've always tried to be mindful of that. And I am always aware of, you know, day players. I love working with day players who come in, they've got a scene in a movie, but they've got a scene in a movie. It's the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
And I'm always very aware of those people and making sure they get their space and time, and, you know, like, because they're often just treated a bit like extras, and they're not. They're actors.
No, and they've prepared and come in.
Yeah.
I always say, if you do that preparation, you'll come in and you will make your mark.
Yeah.
But you've got to do the prep.
You've
got to do the
work.
work.
Yeah.
You can't just come in and coast through it on anything,
No.
big or small.
That's right.
But yeah, I
get
think
any
that
good
day
advice?
player is the hardest thing,
Yeah.
actually, coming into a room full of strangers and having to bare your soul.
Yeah.
Or even just stand there with confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about fake it till you make it.
Right.
You got to kind of go, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I
In a
mean, I've
machine
done
that's
that a
already
lot.
working. Yeah.
I do that on pretty much every film I do. I know what I'm doing. Not.